Okay, good evening. So today we will see PIEXLA API, and in this, as of now, till now we have used only get method. So whenever whatever we did, we actually created a API key in the website, and we are actually hitting the website to get the data. But here today we will see a little bit different. Like we will be not using get method. We will be using like post, put, and delete methods with PIEXLA API. So what exactly the PIEXLA API is? The PIEXLA API is nothing but we can actually track our habits. So for example, if you are running, going for walking or running or cycling, or you can doing training or coding, whatever you do, you can just track it by using this API. It will store us all the data in a pixel format. For example, here it's their official website. So when we see here, depending on the colors, it varies. Uh, I meant to say the colors. So for example, if, here they are showing blue. So if we have done extensively great work, like for example, I am walking daily 2 kilometers. So if I walk more than 6 kilometers, then it will show very dark. Otherwise, it will be a different pixels in the same color. Uh, so it is something like this one. So as of now, we have actually did with some. So we have updated like today 3 kilometers walking graph. So how we did, we will see. So this is like a pixel graph. So for example, if I click on this, so it is showing me the date. Similarly, here we can see the dates like yesterday's date, and there is no update we have done. So it is just for our purpose. So it's like there might be multiple things where we have achieved target or different things. So here it's like the complete documentation how we will be using the API. So yeah, so the same thing looks like it's a RESTful API. So we can use using Python or JavaScript, or even we can directly from the Excel, and then free to use. Uh, so one second. So now what we can do is like I said, we can create the graphs, and we can track variety of activities. Depending on the user, we can create multiple graphs. For example, you are doing walking, running, and then cycling also. You are just creating a reading a book. For example, 50 pages a day, your goal. So it can be accessed publicly or privately depending on our preference, and then it can integrate with all the tools like repository tools. So why we need to use this? Because it's like a game, and it's depending on how we see and what is the effort we have done. It is very useful tool. We can say useful API. We can say. So yeah, these are the a few of the points. So if we go back again, so this is what I meant to say. There are multiple using CI, even Google script, Google Apps also. But this is actually Japanese. Meant to say this is created by Japanese. So there will be some kind of stuff like, for example, uh, the colors. So when we pick up the colors, so just for example, I will show you. Uh, not, not a pixel. So when we are creating graph only, so yeah, the color. So we have to give this Shibafu Momozi. So these are the different shades of color. So these are actually Japanese names for the colors. So we will be very careful. We need to be very careful because when we give directly English, it won't take the color. It will throw the error. So we need to give the whatever the color we will be using. So this is about API. So now, what is actually post, put, and delete requests? So as of now, what we did, we have just get the data from the service, the API service. But what if we put some data into the server, like API service? So generally, whatever the data we fetch from API is like it is stored somewhere, right? So we will be fetching it from the server only. So similarly, when we want to create some new resources on the server, uh, so directly, generally, if, for example, if you want to, there is a school database, and if you want to insert new student into the school database, then we write a command called, for example, from MySQL or SQL server, we write insert some uh, student ID equal to this and student name equal to this. So we insert in the student database. So similarly, instead of directly going there using opening SQL server and everything set up, so if they have provided API, we can directly just use this post command to do the same thing on the server. So here, what we will be doing is like we will be creating a new user, or depending on whatever the for example, they are giving a new user, like sending password, email, and uh, all the details using the post method. So this see, we will be doing, we create one user account using Pixela using this post method, and then put is like again it refers to update method in the database. So for example, if they want to update I meant to say the class they are studying. For example, they are promoted from fifth standard to sixth standard. They need to update their data, right? Their name won't change, but their standard of studying will change. So at that type of thing, we will be using the put operation. So so it's like again a database operations only directly on the server we will be doing, but using this methods like post, put, delete. So going back, so yeah, so these are the again delete is method, like for example in the database, if generally our school database having only up to 10th standard, right? So after some years they want to delete that user not existent, then they can use the delete method to delete the student record from their database. Similarly, here we will be using the same delete method to delete the any entry from the data or the server using the database. So now uh, we will be seeing create a new user, how we can create a new user using post method in the Pixel API. So as of now, what we are doing, we are not creating any API key. So before yesterday or day before yesterday for news API and the Alpha Advantage API, we have created our own API key is generated on their website. But here we will be creating our own username, and token is like the password. You can say we will be creating our own password, and we will be updating the database using the post method. So as of now, if we go here, so let me API document. So this is the endpoint. So if we come here, this is the endpoint pixel API endpoint. So here, what are the require parameters? So generally, these are the, if you see, they have given very detailed documentation. So this is required, username is required, agree terms of service is required, and not a minor is required. And this thanks code is optional, so we don't be using. So and we should be very careful when we are using the post method. We are using URL, and then before we used to pass params, right? Now we will be passing JSON, not params. So it is a similar kind of stuff we used to pass the parameters, but here for post request we will be passing in the JSON parameter. So before it used to be, we for get method we used to do the params. Now params. Now we will be using JSON. So this is one of the request API documentation, like Python requests. So now if I go back, uh, so here if just I'm defining two things as constants, because username don't change and the token don't change. So this is the one of the two things, like username and password you have to remember, and this should be 18 to 128 characters. So 8 to 128 characters it should be, at least 8, and maximum is 128. And here everything is should be in small, otherwise this won't be valid. uh, so what I can do is, let me create another one. So as of now, for example, we are tracking a walking let's create a walking thing. So this is already created, but I will be changing, and let me uncomment everything. Comment everything. So let's forget about this. So because I have already used my name, for example, when I actually try to again create a user new user with the same username, it won't be success. It will throw an error. So for example, let me run it again. So it's saying success is false because the user already exists, because I already created with this username. So now what I can do is just sure some 56. So I'm just changing this to 8. Now the pixel endpoint. So I'm just going via documentation only. This is the endpoint what we have given. So this is actually when you want to try via Unix. This is the curl command, but we will be trying via Python only. So username, the parameters what we have already discussed, like token. We define token, username, token, agree terms of service, not minor. All the four we have defined. The same thing what we have did before also, parameters. and now we are using request dot post method, and URL is like the endpoint URL, and then we are using JSON, like JSON. As I said, here the main difference is we are uh, getting the JSON. So, and we are actually will get a response in two ways. One is JSON, one is the text format. So we are not interested in JSON format. We just need whether it is success or not, whether our request, because we are just updating the database, we are not getting any data. So just we are checking the status of the our request, post request. Then that's why we are just interested in whether it what it is returning. So now when I run, so here it has given me, it has created a username, it's our profile page, and its success equal to true. If you see here, the success is false and message is success. Okay. HTTP, sorry. So as of now, this is my user, but I haven't created any graph yet to track all my data. So yeah, now let's go. So as of now, we successfully created our own username and password. So going forward, we will be using this both username and password to create our graphs, and then to update the pixels in that graphs. So the same thing now, what I will be doing, just I am creating a walking, for example, because walking underscore one, I cannot give underscore walking one. So now so again we go back to documentation. So now we have created a user. So here we can update and delete a user also. So as of now we are not doing any of this, but we will be going to create a graph. So for graph, we need all the required. So what is the ID? What is the name of that graph? What is the unit? Unit is like how many kilometers, uh, for example, how many commits you did, or how many calories you burned, something like that. So it will be quantity. So like the type is like how many, like for example, kilometers. Also it will be inter float only and supported as of now. And the color. So as I said, this is actually Japanese thing, Japanese API. So we will be need to give the color of in format of Japanese color codes only. So all these are required, and this is one of the important thing. So generally, as of now, still now we have passed API key in the URL itself, right? So this is advanced authentication where we will be passing in the header. So generally how it will be working, it will hide the information, the token information internally, and it actually encrypt and then send to the server. So this is actually advanced level authentication. So whenever, for example, there should be new SAP. Where's documentation? So here authorization via HTTP header. This will perform the encoding. So generally the preferred way is HTTP header authentication. So they are don't use API key. So we strongly recommend either use last of the two. Your API key is invisible to others in logs or via requests sniffing. So our API key is like password to the our credential. So should not be using the API key directly. So the best way to use is like via HTTP token, and we will be passing via HTTP headers. So now so we will be building the endpoint here. So it's like users after user, it is like username and then graph. So now we will be just because we have created already our user. I don't want to create again. So now the pixel endpoint, because this is after user, after this endpoint it's like username, my username whatever we created, and then the graphs. So the similar thing it will be building here, and then H is like the authentication. So it's like headers authentication, X users token. So token we already defined here. So this can be anything. Just I have taken random example from the last Alpha Vantage API. Just copy pasted here. So now ID is the graph ID. So this is the important thing required, and the name is like walking graph. Just you can just define anything like daily walking graph. So you can define kilometers or meters. How many kilometers are just I'm defining kilometers, for example. Okay. Then kilometers will be in floating, right? It's like 1.7 something like so. That's why we have defined. And color is like we are taking purple, or you can change it to different color also. Uh, for example, let me change to blue. So now it's the token. Now we will be again using the post method to create our graph. So it's like Pixel is you can just imagine Pixel is a server. Pixel is the server, and then we have created our own username, and then in that username database, in that username we are again creating our own graph. So the Pixela will be having all the users who are using the API. Here we are using our own username. Using the username, we are creating inside this. For example, our username is a data table, and then we are creating one more entry point. Like for example, here the graph. So again, the graph endpoint URL JSON, as I said here. The main thing here, if we observe, to authenticate, header is equal to headers. So now I have given. So I'm just running. So I got message equal to success, e success equal to true. So it has created my this thing. So now I go here and just update. It should uh, give me here. So it has created. If you see, it has created. So just I'm opening this. So here as of now there is nothing. I have created only graph, but all these pixels are depending on all the dates. So for example, it's starting from 21 and so last 1 year data. So now we need to update whatever the data going forward into these pixels. So we have created our own graph. So it's like daily walking graph. And today we have not updated what are the pixels, how many pixels. So now again to update here we will be I meant to say insert pixels. We will be using again the post method. So again here our pixel creation endpoint will change. So we don't need to create again our graph endpoint. So just I am hiding these two lines. So on the already created graph, we will be updating our data. So here just before I have just taken this not required. So now we are creating a pixel endpoint. So again, if we go back to documentation, so we have created a graph, and then now we will be posting a pixel. So here if we go to this graphs, so this is the username and this is the graph ID what we have defined. So we will be creating this URL, building this URL dynamically. So this pixel creation endpoint, pixel username and graphs and the graph ID. So that's why we have defined all these three as constants, because we will be using multiple times. These all these three are main in the tracking. So now how many kilometers you have walked today? So for example, so this is like again a string format. So generally to update this data, so let's see what are the string and that too in YYMMDD format. So as of now we already seen string format, right? We can get the date and then we can format it required using string format method. So similarly we have used date time module to get the date today. We can actually pass the date in this format like a previous day and the day before day. That also we can do, but generally to update it today, for example, then we will be using this YYMMDD format. So like now, so on the quantity is like we can actually specify then, and optional we won't be using this any optional data. So here input is we will be asking the user how many kilometers like ourselves how many kilometers you walk did you walk, and then we are actually posting that into this. So for example, let me just run it. So for example 4 I am saying, so it has given success. Now my graph should be updated, right? So let's go to the graph. Just I'm refreshing it. Now if we see it is updated. So it's like because we have updated only 1 day, so it has given us some little bit a bluish shade. So let me update for yesterday's date. So for example, I am just taking this one. Okay, 24 01 27. So I am not taking this directly today's date. So I'm just taking yesterday's date. So I'm giving 8. Message where please check your request for a quantity string not number is successful. It is not update. Okay, okay. So we need to be very careful because this should be in string data type. So again, if you go to documentation, they have given the data type also. It should be in string. So that's why we got the bad error. So now I will be giving 8. Updating 2024 01 27, right? PYMMDD. Let me retry again. Okay, so now it got updated. Okay, maybe it's not a Pixel supporter. Please retry this request. Okay. Now if I go back again and just so it has given me color like 6 kilometers. So max. So they have given me two things. So yeah, average. So we have 2 pixels. So today 4 kilometers. So yeah. So now if we want to update, for example, the data again. So for example, I want to update. You have walked today morning for 4 kilometers, and then today evening 2 kilometers, and then if you want to update the data, then here we will be using update endpoint. So the same thing. Like again, let's go back to documentation. So documentation is very important. Update pixel. So here we will be using user token by default, and then what is the quantity is optional. So we will be using this one quantity what we need to update. So here the if you see the endpoint, so there will be the date by mmdd date after the user. So we defined again the update endpoint using the same whatever we updated here, like the same thing. So by default it is string format time, so that's why if we given directly haven't thrown any error. So the same thing now I will be updating to 4.5. So let's see how it will be doing. Okay, I have not commented this. Sorry, I haven't the request. Okay, we have defined but we haven't keep the put request, right? So the URL endpoint JSON is the pixel data, what are the new pixel data, and header is the authentication. Because we are already defined here, we are using the same user token authentication. Please retry this request. Okay. got succeeded. Just I'm clearing screen. If I go back, so this should be updated total like 10.5. So yeah, now it got updated. Uh, Now the same thing if you want to delete. So now again commenting this out. So here the deleted point is again the same thing. So there won't be any change. Actually, we can use the same point also, but here the method is changing. So it will delete the total day whatever we require. So again, if we go back to the documentation, so delete a pixel. So here the endpoint username graph ID IMDD. So you just require user token, nothing else. User URL and user token. Now if I run it, so now it got succeeded. Now I should not be having any data in this pixel. When I refresh it, today there is 0 kilometers data, so no data. But here 24 to here 27. So depending on different inputs. So because we have uh, two pixels before, then the color got changed. It got automatically updated. But when we removed one again, the color got decreased because. So it will be varies depending on the our inputs. So 27, 20. So this is how we will be using post, put, and delete method. So yeah, for any backend development, these are one of the four methods: get, post, put, and delete are one of the very important topics to delete to do the any API development or API testing or to do any backend development using APIs. So the same thing I have mentioned here, like put method, depending. So here we have to give our own username, self-generated ID, or graph ID. Yeah, I think yeah, that's it for today.